Welcome, everybody. Welcome to What Breaks Things, Monday show. Getting started off on the right foot. Little tech difficulty to get the week started off on the right foot in true Brett Breaks Things fashion. right on Brett Breaks Things brand. We're going to break our graphics real quick. Welcome, guys. I had a nice, relaxing weekend. My wife did not. Birthday party at the house. Wildin'. Kids are wildin'. Cats scared under the bed. Up in the room. Kids wilding out. So I had a relaxing weekend. Tony didn't. But no, I enjoyed my weekend. I hope you guys did too. A lot of baseball, a little bit of football. More football to come. Can't wait for that. Quick announcement. We may have to take Friday off. We've got some things going on around here. Friday may be a casualty of those things, but it's not set in stone. I'll let you know as we get closer. But just a possibility, putting that out there. Some stuff is in flux around here, and we'll let you know as soon as we know what's what for sure. But I do promise you this, we will need your help. Don't forget to donate. BrettBreaksThings.com, hit the donate button. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Got new mods in the channel. You mods are doing an amazing job, as you did with Randy, you are doing with me, and I really appreciate your efforts. Come over to the channel. If you want to be a mod, hit us up. Call, email us. We've got plenty of contacts. So just let us know. We're always looking for more. And if you're on Randy's channel, come over. It's about time. It's about time already. Come on over. I know it's scary. Just come over. Go to Brett Breaks Things, YouTube, subscribe, join the party. Starting to get bigger numbers over on the Brett's page than on Randy's, right? Like the tip has happened. At first, it was obviously a huge number of Randy's compared to mine, and that has shifted, and now we've got more over to mine, so join the party. Join the party. Water's warm. Water's great. Come on in. All right, let's get started. There's a story that's breaking over the, Friday and over the weekend, and everybody's talking about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it a little bit.
And we've got some breaking news. The July jobs report was released just moments ago, and it shows that the United States added 73,000 jobs last month. That is less than the 100,000 that economists had expected. The unemployment rate saw a slight increase to 4.2%. The report also revealed job totals for June and May were revised much lower, down a combined 258,000 from the previous announced levels. That's significant. Seems like a pretty bad news report. Outside of healthcare and a couple other sectors, job market actually shrinking, and certainly this didn't meet expectations.
Absolutely not. Healthcare and service jobs. That's where we actually saw hiring. And where didn't we? Manufacturing. So that's what I really want to focus on, because there's been all this talk that, look, the president made these tariff announcements a few months ago and the economy still held. Well, what the economy has done is braced itself, like waiting for tariffs to hit, which, as you know, is going to happen now. And this idea that we're going to bring back these manufacturing jobs, they're not happening.
Yeah. So and they go on to explain, and we'll hear from some people about how certain sectors did fine, sectors that aren't reliant on imports of materials, parts, metals, precious metals. Some sectors that weren't dependent on things we get from other countries that weren't affected by the tariffs, they did okay. But manufacturing jobs, they didn't hire because they're, like she said, they are bracing for the impact of these tariffs. They're bracing. They cannot afford to hire to end up that much more underwater when some of these insane tariffs hit. And a normal president, a normal administration might come out in the face of job numbers like this and say, hey, the job numbers weren't great. We're going to look into it. We're going to verify the efficacy of these numbers. But for now, it doesn't look great. So here's our plan to turn it around. Here's what we have in the works to improve these. We have to address this. The American people are worried about it. You should be, right? A normal president would come out and say these things. Not this one. Not this one. The reports are not good, and Donnie only has one tactic. Lie. Lie about it. It's his only tactic. It's been his only tactic for quite some time. People who used to surround him to actually mitigate situations like this, stuff that doesn't look good to the press, that doesn't hit the public's ear right, or things that may have you as the American public worried. He used to be surrounded by people who knew how to handle these things. Not anymore. Now he just has people that can double down on his lie. That's the role of his cabinet. That's the role of the people in high positions in his administration, not to actually fix these things because they're unqualified. And we'll get to unqualified people that he handpicks in a little bit as well. But no, their job isn't to, deal with the problems in a qualified, experienced manner. Their job is to double down on his lies. If we have enough people at high enough levels in the government lying to you in tandem, you'll believe it. Trump's perception is reality. Not this time, not once again. That is not the way things are going lately. People are starting to wake up. They're starting to wake up because he's starting to lie about things they care about, and he's starting to lie about things that affect their wallets. The report continues.
Boris, look, the job market, it's been so resilient for so long, but all of a sudden it looks like it's stalling out. That is a big deal, and that is concerning investors on Wall Street. Let me run you through some of the key numbers here. We learned today that the U.S. economy added 73,000 jobs in July. Now, that was weaker than expected. The unemployment rate went up from 4.1 to 4.2%. That's still pretty low, but it's moving in the wrong direction. But what's really alarmed economists is the fact that during the months of May and June, the U.S. economy added almost no jobs at all. As you mentioned, there were these massive downward revisions showing that the economy added about 250,000 fewer jobs than we previously knew. In fact, when you look here at the 3-month average, economists like to take an average to smooth out some of the volatility. Well, this is the weakest 3-month stretch since June of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic.
This guy missed his calling. He should have been a morning zoo DJ. We're going to be out at the South Florida Fair this weekend. I'm going to be signing hot dogs and watching people have fun in the sun. It's called puking. And it's a tactic in radio that used to be popular like 40 years ago, and now he's bringing it back to CNN, whatever. What he's saying, though, holds, okay? And what's really remarkable about that graph he just showed you, he showed you May and June. Because in April is when he announced all those tariffs. April, Liberation Day, April 2nd, I believe it was when those massive tariffs across the board were realized, when he announced what they would be, and then lo and behold, the 2 following months, nobody did any hiring. Everybody turtled up. Everybody got scared in the manufacturing sector and other sectors that are dependent on imports. They got scared. They turtled up. They stopped hiring. It's right there. Clear as day. Makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to us, right? It makes perfect sense to those of us who live in reality. The CNN report continues for just a little bit, and then we're going to get some reaction.
14,000, 19,000, those are very, very weak numbers. And it's also just statistically, and for those who keep track of things, way off from what they said before. But if you looked at a 3-month stretch like this, you say, wait a second, we've got an economy that's got some real challenges.
That's got a lot of work to do. And when you think about the fact that Liberation Day, yes, April 2nd rather, Liberation Day, we were sort of wondering when we were going to see the effects of these tariffs on the labor market. And you and I were talking about the fact that, wow, we haven't actually seen it yet. Well, we did see it. It just wasn't reflected in the numbers. 19,000, as you point out, 14,000 jobs added in June. Clearly, it was having an impact. People were not hiring.
I love her accent. I want to hear her talk more than the other guy. How about that? I'll just put that out there. So yeah, those of us grounded in reality, this makes perfect sense. He announces these massive, unprecedented tariffs that the stock market and these major corporations, these manufacturing corporations, they don't know what's going to happen. They're scared. They don't know the effect of this, how bad it might get, so they stop hiring. That makes perfect sense to you and me. Others in the media really didn't know how to react to this, including Maria Bartiromo, who got the news live. She had a panel full of sycophants sitting around chirping about how awesome Trump is, and then this comes out live. Let's check this out.
73,000 jobs.
Watch their faces.
73,000 jobs created in the month of July. Number just coming out.
And that's total.
4.2% is the unemployment rate, right in line with expectations. Here are the numbers. For the month of July, jobs came in at 73,000. That was lower than the expectation, which called for 110,000 jobs. The unemployment rate right in step with expectations at 4.2%. Steve Moore, your reaction.
Look, I think this is all a result, this disappointing number is a result of all the turmoil over tariffs and the trade wars.
Now, here's an interesting trend. And by the way, Maria, she tried to hit it. She hit it and kept it moving right. And they all were scrambling. Oh, crap, that can't be right. What do I say? Where's my lie? How do I spin this? Where's my propaganda ad? I don't have a sheet for this. Nobody helped us for these kind of numbers. Nobody prepped us. Here's a trend that I find interesting. Something negative comes out about the administration, and then somebody on Fox will tell the truth about it. Look, I don't know what to make of this particular trend just yet. It's leaving a vacuum for other media outlets, and we'll get to those. You already know who they are, to pick up the 100% on board propaganda bullcrap steamrolling through our elderly's sense of like, you know, reality and how to center themselves. But Fox, they've been telling the truth in spots lately, and it's weird.
Today's report is really going to shed more light that this was a very weak report. The revisions, certainly to May and June, are very concerning. I'm surprised unemployment is just at 4.2%. I know that, you know, they're looking at that number, but they need to look at the whole picture. We do see a softening market. Now, there are jobs out there. I know you did ask me about that. There's still opportunities, like some of the hottest jobs, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, data scientists, analyst roles. But these are really skilled, high-level positions. These are the top occupations that are growing, and we need to get more people into these fields. They pay six figures, but a lot of those entry-level positions, Maria, are going away.
They're going away. So we heard from fake news media, CNN, and they told us the job report sucks. Okay. And then we heard from former bastion of everything Trump and Trumpism, Fox News, and said the job report sucks. Well, then who's left out here to spin this crap? Who's left out here to do the mental gymnastics to try to make this not as bad as it actually is, to lie to their viewers so there's not even one shred of doubt in their dear leader's skill at running the country? Who's left out there to spin this crap? You know who it is.
The month of July, unemployment rate ticks up 1/10 of 1 percentage point to 4.2, 73,000 jobs created. Unemployment rate is expected, jobs a little bit below what Wall Street expected at 110,000.
A little bit.
But I would say mostly in line with expectations.
Yeah.
Good,
So there we go.
Good news all around.
Yeah, good news all around. Good news all around. That has strayed so far from media, it is now in the land of performance art. Like, you got to hand it to Newsmax. They know the assignment. Full propaganda in the face of every shred of evidence. You just got to stiff arm reality and go full propaganda. Newsmax gets the assignment, man. They get it. Good news all around. No, it's not good news. Because if it wasn't good news, people wouldn't be losing their jobs over this. You understand? Everybody knows this isn't good news, especially Donnie.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
Firing the messenger. President Trump firing the top official behind the government's jobs numbers. It is a stunning and an unprecedented move in the United States, coming just hours after the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is, around the world, the most trusted gold standard of jobs reporting numbers, issued a report that revised job growth, showing that job growth in the United States had slowed to a near halt over the past 3 months. Erika McEntarfer is a 20-year U.S. government veteran. She was confirmed to run the BLS by the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. Senator J.D. Vance at the time, of course, backed her, voted for her. And to be clear, her termination tonight is for political reasons. There's no evidence the jobs numbers were manipulated as Trump is claiming. There's no one credible or serious who's saying any such thing. Today's report was bad. It did show bad numbers, not because the numbers were cooked, but because there was weakening in the economy.
Okay. So this is a Truth Social post out of Trump. I was just informed that our country's jobs numbers, and he put that in quote, our jobs numbers, like they're not really jobs numbers, or they don't, I don't know what he's doing with that. Our jobs numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erika McEntarfer, the commissioner of labor statistics, who faked the job numbers before the election to try to boost Kamala's chances of victory. He went on to say some other bull crap. And then full spin. The economy is booming under Trump. Yes, himself in the third person again. Another quotation under Trump, like it's not really Trump or something. The economy is booming under Trump, despite a Fed that also plays games. This time with the interest rates, where they lowered them twice and substantially just before the presidential election. I assume in hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work out? Jerome Too Late Powell. Thank you, Don. You got him rolling a little bit. That's a new one. Jerome Too Late Powell should also be put out to pasture. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Yeah, that was on Friday. Who is this? Who is this lady? Who is Dr. Erika McEntarfer? McEntarfer, that's how you pronounce it. She was nominated by President Biden in July of 2023 and confirmed by the U.S. Senate in 2024, a strong bipartisan vote of 86-8. I mean, that's hardly a Biden appointee when the whole Senate almost says, yes, this is a qualified, good pick for this position. 86-8 was the vote on her. We'll never see a vote like that again on anything. The good old days. She formally assumed office as the 16th commissioner of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on January 29th of 2024. She earned her bachelor's degree in science from Bard College, followed by a PhD in economics from Virginia Tech. She spent over 2 decades as a labor economist in federal roles, and at the U.S. Census Bureau Center for Economic Studies, she supervised research on labor markets using innovative employer-employee matched data. Trump has offered no evidence of misconduct by Dr. McEntarfer, but made vague and politically charged accusations following the devastating jobs report. Okay? Trump's claims made by Trump and his team that she rigged or manipulated the jobs numbers. He implied these numbers were designed to make the Trump economy look worse than it really is. Not designed to make my economy or this administration's economy, the Trump economy. Quote, this was a political hit job. The numbers were cooked. She let it happen or helped it happen. They claimed she's part of a deep state sabotage. Allies close to Trump have suggested that McEntarfer was part of a Biden-era bureaucratic holdover network sabotaging Trump's economic messaging, even though she's a career economist and not a partisan appointee. And ultimately, she failed to prevent the bad data from being released. That's really their beef here. Because keep in mind, she doesn't actually compile any of this data. That's not what the person in her position does. They don't compile the numbers. She simply green stamps it and rubber stamps it and sends it along. She's the last stop before it gets released. She didn't do any, she had no, effect on the compiling of this data at all. It wasn't her. But she failed to prevent it from coming out. She told the American truth, the public, about what her team had found. She just gave you the numbers and got fired for it. The commissioner does not generate or edit the data. The commissioner sees finalized figures shortly before released. and cannot alter them without violating federal law. Even if she wanted to fudge the numbers or stop the report or have, in any way change any of this, she would have been facing federal prosecution. So, I mean, surprise, surprise. Trump is a liar about why she was fired. Just shooting the messenger. There are some expert critiques about this. William Beach, a former Trump-appointed Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner, called the firing groundless, saying the commissioner has no role in number construction. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, warned the dismissal is beyond anything Nixon ever did, saying it's the stuff of democracies giving away to authoritarianism. Let's hear from Trump himself.
On the monthly jobs report, going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's the big thing. You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? You go back to election day. Look what happened 2 or 3 days before with massive, wonderful job numbers, trying to get him elected or her elected, trying to get whoever the hell was running. Because you go back, and they came out with numbers that were very favorable to Kamala, okay, to trying to get him elected, trying to get her elected. And then on the 15th of November or thereabouts, they had an 800,000 or 900,000 overstatement reduction right after the election. It didn't work because you know who won, John? I won.
Okay, let's fact check that lie. It's really, really quick. It is true that the BLS amended their overall year-to-date jobs numbers, and it was about 880,000 less than what was reported cumulatively over the year, month over month. But that is absolutely normal. It happens every single year. Once they get all the data in and look everything over and amend what they found at the end of the year, they give you the real report. But what he's lying about is that report also came out before the election. He's lying about that November 15th date. He just made it up. He just made it up and then said, look, the BLS came out later and said that they're liars about their numbers. But those adjustments are made every single year at the end of the year. Go look at it. At the end of the year, every year, the Labor Bureau, it amends their numbers because they have new data, finalized data. Any, changes are fully taken into account for a final end of the year number. And it happens all the time. It was not politically weaponized. Yeah. And I don't even know why Trump's getting so excited. These may be amended as well. Could be worse. Yeah. But of course, who's now in control, right? So we'll see. We'll see what comes out with full disclosure, real transparency, a word they like to bandy about a lot, transparency. We'll see how much transparency we have. We'll see. It continues.
Okay, thank you very much. We had a very good weekend in many respects. We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So,
by the way, I forgot to make this little comment. On the previous video, the reporter had asked him, why should the American public ever trust anything you tell us going forward? Why should we trust any numbers we're given going forward? And Trump said, ma'am, maybe you shouldn't. This is what Orwell predicted. This is what Orwell feared. Trump is now telling you, hey, if it ain't good, if I don't okay it, you shouldn't listen to it. You shouldn't trust it. Anything comes out, any numbers come out, and I'm telling you they're not right, I'm telling you they're fake, false, rigged, you shouldn't trust it. Do not trust it. Don't trust your ears. Don't trust your eyes. Don't trust what experts tell you. Doctors, lawyers, economists, statisticians. Don't trust what anybody tells you if I don't post it on Truth Social. Okay, that is what Orwell feared. That is authoritarianism. We've talked about attacks on free press. This is one step more egregious. Because at least with the Associated Press, with free media, he can scream CNN's fake news all at once. But if you watch CNN and you believe what they're telling you, that's it. It doesn't matter what he says. You believe what you're being told by CNN. But this is something different. He's not telling you don't believe the press. He's telling you don't believe your own government officials if they're not saying what I'm saying. And we saw it earlier this year. Tulsi had the temerity to sit there under oath and say, well, the Iranian nuclear program isn't really that far along. It's not a big threat right now. And he came right out behind and said, don't trust your DNI. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Now it's don't trust the Bureau of Labor statistics. They don't know what they're talking about either. Anybody who disagrees with me, they don't know what they're talking about. Don't believe them.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. Brett breaks things where the stakes are high and the truth still matters.
Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election, days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala. I guess Biden/Kamala. And she came out with these beautiful numbers trying to get somebody else elected. Then right after the election, I think on the 15th, November 15th, she had an $800,000 or $900,000 massive reduction. Said she made a mistake. That woman's numbers are
on the monthly jobs report. Going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
I cut that together. It was the same question. It was a little bit of a mashup there. Let me ask you a question. Any Republicans? I know how independents and left-leaning Americans feel right now about Trump and what he tells us and what he's doing to the economy. I know how you feel about it. But Republicans, specifically those of you looking for work, does it feel like the numbers were rigged? Do you have friends, family, neighbors who are also out of work and can't seem to find those manufacturing jobs, especially up in Ohio and Indiana, those deep red states that are supposed to be manufacturing hubs? And you're out there looking for work. Does it feel like the numbers are rigged? Does it feel like he's the victim here? Because that's what he's telling you once again. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim every single time. Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics hates Trump. They hate Trump. The media hates Trump. That's why they do this. They hate Trump. They're never Trumpers. According to Trump, the whole world is a bunch of never Trumpers, except his MAGA base. And then he even attacked them when they started calling him out about his hand-picked FBI and DOJ burying Epstein stuff that they had once claimed not just a year or two before was a huge Democratic cover-up. We're going to release the names. We're going to release the files. We're going to release it. We're going to release it. And then they don't. So now even some of his MAGA base is like scratching their heads. It doesn't make sense. Cognitive dissonance has befallen them. And if they want to question the motives of Trump, Bongino, Patel, or Bondi, then you're also victimizing Trump. You're never Trumpers. We don't want you. He's a victim. He's the biggest victim there ever was. Every time. It's because you don't like Trump. That's why you don't believe my lies. You don't like Trump. Yeah. Yeah. And, they want to come out and they want to talk about transparency. And of course, he's going to have his sycophants trotted out to the media, friendly media in most cases, to, explain away why he fired McEntarfer, why these numbers aren't what they're supposed to be. Anything but reality, anything but the truth, anything in this case but his crazy tariff war. Anything but that.
Team, the commissioner doesn't have any hand or any influence or any way of even knowing the data until they're completely done. Isn't this the very definition of shooting the messenger?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the bottom line is that there were people involved in creating these numbers. And if I were running the BLS and I had a number that was a huge politically important revision, the biggest since 1968, actually revisions should be smaller, right? Because computers are better and so on. Then I would have a really long report explaining exactly what happened. And we didn't get that. We didn't get that. And so right now, people, Goldman Sachs, people on Wall Street are wondering, where did these revisions come from and why do they keep happening? And what we need is a fresh set of eyes over at the BLS. And there are great career staffers. One of the top BLS staffers is actually working in the White House to help us understand the jobs numbers. When I saw the jobs revisions, I literally called up that person and said, I think there's a typo. Because I've been following these numbers all the way back when I worked with Alan Greenspan for something like 40 years, and I've never seen revisions like this.
But just to be very clear, I mean, there are 40 people put these numbers together. Is the president planning to fire all 40 people involved in putting these numbers together?
We're going to try to get the numbers so that they're transparent and reliable.
That is Kevin Hassett. He's the director of the National Economic Council. Now, what he's very calmly and clearly telling you is, the weird thing is, right, the rigged part is, there were revisions just before these numbers came out. I've never seen revisions like this before. Yes, you have. We've all seen revisions like this before every jobs report. And what he's saying is these revisions were so massive that McEntarfer should have written a report and given it to us. We should have a report on why so many massive revisions. That's what they're going for. That's what they're going with in terms of firing her. They're saying, well, there were so many revisions by her staff that she should have written a report explaining these massive revisions that happen every single year. And for that, she's fired. For that, we have to fire her. Okay? I mean, and honestly, he's doing a really good Trump impression here, right? I get asked a direct question, why was she fired? And I start talking about some other stuff. I eventually land on, she didn't write a report to me or to us about these revisions. That's what she lands on, okay? And by the way, maybe there was more revisions. Maybe they spent more time revising and doing their due diligence because they knew somebody would get fired if Trump didn't like the numbers. Maybe they did more diligence. Maybe they were more diligent on it, did more revisions to make sure it was airtight. Because they knew this was a weaponized government, weaponized against anybody who does anything or says anything against the Trump narrative, and they knew somebody was going to get fired over this. Maybe that's why we had so many revisions. Maybe. Hassett continues.
President Trump himself was happy to accept the jobs numbers issued under McEntarfer's leadership when the numbers were good. Take a listen to what he said in the past.
The numbers were much better, as you know, than projected by the media.
In 3 months, we have created 350,000 jobs. Think of that.
A lot of jobs are being created. That's what happened this morning. We saw the jobs.
So is the president prepared to fire anyone who reports data that he disagrees with?
No, absolutely not. The president wants his own people there so that when we see the numbers, they're more transparent and more reliable. And if there are big changes and big revisions, we expect more big revisions for the jobs data in September, for example, then we want to know why. We want people to explain it to us.
Okay. It's real clear what he's saying there. We need our people in here. We got to have our people in here. That way, crap, Hamels did it. Crap like that doesn't come out, right? We can fudge the numbers. And when the numbers aren't good, not rigged or phony, but when he doesn't like them, we don't have to tell them to you. Or maybe as far as, if my people are in here, there will no longer be any numbers that I don't like. We'll take care of that problem. When my people are in here, we're going to tell you all about how awesome the economy is. And 1 billion jobs were created, and inflation's down 50%. Whatever they want is what you'll get once they have their people in charge. once they have their people in charge. You know, attacking sources of truth inside your government is not a new thing, okay? Now, I'm going to give you some examples of leaders in the past who have practiced in attacking truth tellers from their own government. Examples of it and how it plays out. And I'm not telling you that Trump is these people. Trump is these people. This is who he is. I'm not telling you that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lay out the behavior of certain world leaders over history. And if you, the viewer, should happen to draw parallels between them and what's happening now, then those are parallels that you drew. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just asking you, would you like to think about this? Joseph Stalin, his targets, statisticians, demographers, and economists. They revised math, deaths, and famine and failure of the 5-year plan. In 1937, the Soviet Union showed 8 million fewer people due to famine and purges. Stalin labeled it as sabotage and executed the head of the census, a man named Kvitkin. And he scrapped all his data. And then new falsified data was released in 1935. No biggie. Nikola Kondratiev, a respected economist who criticized Stalin's forced collectivization policies, he was arrested in 1930 and executed in 1938. Mao Zedong in China. His target was local officials, statisticians, and agricultural experts. Why? They reported famines and low productivity during the Great Leap Forward, 58 to 62. Local leaders inflated crop yields out of fear, causing higher quotas and mass starvation. Officials who reported true food shortages were purged, humiliated, and sent to labor camps. I mean, yeah. In that case, another 30 to 45 million people died of starvation due to Mao Zedong not liking the numbers. And everybody else left, fudging them, forging them, actually rigging them to fit Mao's narrative. Adolf Hitler. I'm not saying he's Hitler. Hitler's just a part of this list we compiled. That's all. You draw parallels, then you draw them. Target military officers, economists, and civil servants. Why? They delivered bad news about the war effort and economic limitations. One, Fritz Todt, armaments minister, warned Hitler of unsustainable war production in 1942. He died under mysterious circumstances, a plane crash the next day after he reported after he reported the unsustainability of his war efforts. Yeah, it happens. That's a coincidence. I'm going to throw that one out. That's a coincidence, right? Obviously. Disregard that one. It was a coincidence. Saddam Hussein. I mean, this is quite a list. Saddam Hussein targeted military officers and intelligence officials. Why? They gave battlefield losses and economic warnings due to wars, especially the Iran-Iraq and Gulf War. Actions taken? Well, the generals who reported retreats or setbacks were tortured and executed. Intelligence reports were tailored to tell Saddam what he wanted to hear, making military planning disastrous, and Iraq suffered devastating losses, prolonged wars, and false confidence in military strength. North Korea, the Kim dynasty, they targeted anyone who contradicted the leader's narrative at all. We're talking scientists, economists, and even weather forecasters. The regime permits no bad news about the economy, weather, or military actions taken. Statistical reporting is banned unless approved by the state. That's where we're going. Right there. Statistical reporting is banned unless approved by the state. Now, they're not going to come out and say they're banning it, but look, we got to get our people in there, right? We got to get our people in there. And we're just going to round out this list real quick with some more contemporary names. Jair Bolsonaro, Trump's best friend. Targeted environmental scientists, health data officials over COVID numbers. Removed health ministers, Vladimir Putin, economists, demographers, war analysts, arrested, exiled for reporting war losses, famine. And then number 8, final guy on the list. I'm just telling you what happened, just stats, just facts, figures. Donald Trump. Targeted CDC scientists, NOAA forecasters, Census Bureau officials, election statisticians. Why? Data clashed with political narrative. We're seeing that right now. He attacked this group of people over Sharpiegate, COVID-19 numbers, the 2020 census, post-election. You know what he lies about. A lot of you are big fans of Randy. She highlighted all of that as it was happening. I'm not telling you what to think about Trump. I'm not telling you what to think, but if you find parallels between those gentlemen's actions and the actions of Donald Trump now, well, those are parallels that you have come to on your own. I'm simply providing you the data. That's all I'm doing.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
It happens in countries like Russia, Iran, and China. The inner circle of the dictator get very rich, while the rest of the country struggles. Now it's happening in America. Donald Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, over $4.5 million. Stephen Miller, that angry little guy his own family attacks, hundreds of thousands. Trump's former golf caddy, Dan Scavino, over $2 million. Sergio Gore, 38-year-old former DJ from Malta, over $1 million. What's Donald Trump done for you? You paying less for eggs? Your taxes gone down? Social Security offices are closing. VA services slashed. Trump's pushing the largest Medicaid cut in history and the biggest tax cut for billionaires. Trump's golden circle gets rich, while the rest of us struggle. It's not fair. Russia, Iran, China, corrupt dictatorships. And now, America. Donald Trump. It's just not working.
Brett breaks things because someone has to.
They are indeed. It's a plane load of Texas Democratic lawmakers. In fact, they're still on the tarmac in Austin. We have a live picture of the plane sitting there, getting ready to take off very shortly. They are heading to Chicago. Some claim that they're escaping Texas right now because they are trying to prevent the state legislature there from having a quorum, enough lawmakers to be able to vote on a redistricting plan. They say that it is being forwarded by President Trump, will increase the number of Republican districts in that state by 5. Now, the group boarded that plane about an hour ago and due to land at O'Hare about 6:30, but they will be a little later than that, it looks like right now.
Okay. We're going to get into the redistricting, all right? We're going to talk about the Texas redistricting. I've been mentioning it over and over again. I've been playing some James Talrico, and you're going to hear from him again. But before I jump into this, I just want to ask one question. Watch this again, and then I'm going to pause it. Watch this again. Where the hell is he doing this stand-up from? What little crappy mini mall did he decide to do this stand-up in front of? Now, you see that in the back there, Amici's Salon? I think I figured it out. Now, I've been watching a lot of Sopranos, admittedly. But I have a feeling like this guy, John Garcia, went to one of Amici's poker games, lost his shirt. Now he owes Amici some money. And Amici's like, you know what you're going to do? You're going to do your next stand-up in front of my shop. I'm going to get a little free advertising out of you, okay? No. I don't. You're going to do it in front of Amici's Salon, you hear me? Yeah? You like your kneecaps the way they are? Okay. All right, anyway. Yeah. So the redistricting is pushing forward in this special 30-day session, right? An overview of the new Texas congressional map, they are targeting Democratic districts like Austin, Dallas, Houston, and South Texas, all right? In the current balance of the Texas legislature, the GOP holds 25 of 38 seats, okay? Trump, in the election in 2024, won 27 districts in Texas. With the new map, if it was the way, if the new map was, okay, the way this current redistricting proposes, he would have won 30 districts. Okay, does that make it clear? He's at least going to pick up 3 districts, potentially more with this redistricting. And the Democrats could lose another 5 seats, potentially, due to this redistricting. The key targets are Henry Cellular of Laredo and Vicente Gonzalez of McAllen, Julie Johnson of Dallas, Mark Vesey of Fort Worth, and Greg Kasar, who we're going to hear from in a second, and Lloyd Doggett of Austin and San Antonio, respectively. They all have to primary against each other because their districts are now intertwined, or they might just lose them altogether. Okay? It's a very sneaky little plot they've got going, and they're jamming it into this 30-day special session that was called because of the flooding. They called the 30-day session to address the flooding disaster and then did nothing for it and started in with this redistricting immediately. Remember that DOJ letter that showed up a couple days before the 30-day special session was called? And then all of a sudden, we're talking redistricting. With 135 people dead from flooding, we're talking redistricting in Texas. Great. Wonderful. So, what are the Democrats in Texas going to do about it? You heard. They're leaving. They're leaving to break quorum. We talked about this. Talrico's going to talk about this.
This is State Representative James Talarico from Texas. If you're seeing this video, my Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab. Trump told our Republican colleagues to redraw the political maps here in Texas in the middle of the decade to get him 5 more seats and protect his majority in Congress. They're turning our districts into crazy shapes to guarantee the outcome they want in the 2026 elections. If this power grab succeeds, they will hang on to power without any accountability from the voters. But Texas Democrats are fighting back. We're leaving the state, breaking quorum, and preventing Republicans from silencing our voices and rigging the next election. We are not fighting for the Democratic Party. We are fighting for the democratic process, and the stakes could not be higher. We have to take a stand.
We have to take a stand, says Talrico. We have to take a stand. Okay, hours after the Democrats departed, Governor Greg Abbott responded with further escalation, declaring that their walkout amounted to an abandonment or forfeiture of an elected state office. He continued, if they do not show up for the scheduled floor debate on the maps on Monday, Mr. Abbott said he will invoke a legal opinion by the Texas Attorney General and take steps to remove the missing Democrats from membership in the Texas House, which would not happen, by the way. That would be challenged immediately in the courts. If now Texas is obviously red, a lot of Trump-appointed judges in that area. If it should, stall or make it out, I have a hard time even seeing this Supreme Court, allowing something like that. I just have a hard time believing that, even this Supreme Court. Even before Mr. Abbott's threat, the ultimate outcome for Texas Democrats was far from certain. The walkout could delay action in the legislature for several weeks or more, but comparable past attempts to block Republican legislation and redistricting in Texas have failed. All right, this has been tried before, 2003, and then again later on. They have broke quorum, they have left. Every single time, the Republicans got what they wanted, eventually. Now, Governor Greg Abbott accused the Democratic lawmakers who left Texas to break quorum on redistricting of potentially facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony under Texas law. He claims their actions of soliciting or accepting funds to skip the vote could institute bribery. You see, they're getting charged $500 a day every day they miss. $500 a day. He's saying, if any of you try to get a little dough to pay these fines, it's bribery. I mean, that is Cobra Commander level shenanigans right there. That is what a bad guy does. That is, I mean, you almost, what can I say? Bribery is what he's claiming. Bribery. Now, 2 Democratic superstars are featured in this in these series of clips. One, James Talrico. He's gaining a lot of momentum. People are starting to like what he has to say, and he's starting to say more. But another Democratic superstar, and somebody I mentioned weeks ago a couple times in prior shows, and by the way, our Friday show, that was our 50th show. That was our 50th show. I mean, that was fast. And just to digress, I really appreciate you guys being here for it. That was our 50th show already. I mean, I know I love what I'm doing here. And I know I love talking to you guys and getting feedback from you guys and working with Scotty, because that was the fastest 50 days of my entire life, period. Couldn't have done it without Scotty, period. I told you J.B. Pritzker was a rising superstar. J.B. Pritzker, man. I love hearing this guy talk. He makes me wish I lived in Illinois. This guy, he is a rising star in the Democratic Party. Let's hear from him. He welcomed in the majority of these Democrats breaking quorum. They went to JB's state. They went to Illinois, and they stood with him.
They are attempting to cheat. And, I think we all know Donald Trump is a cheater. Yeah. Right. So is the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, in so many ways.
Preach. He's got a congregation there, and they love to hear it. And yes, we all know that Donald Trump is a cheat, and Greg Abbott is absolutely reprehensible. So, I mean, Pritzker not saying anything too spectacular there, nothing you don't already know, but just want to play him. Just want to play him, keep him fresh on your mind. Joe Rosenthal, a couple other people, Texas reps, they had something to say about this.
This is going to create a ripple effect around the country. What we do here will affect what happens in the United States of America. And if we were interested in taking public input, we would go to where those people are and hear them, listen to their testimony. But we won't get a chance to do that. This entire proceeding is just a power grab by the Trump administration, assisted by a complicit GOP.
We have always had public input on the maps. We have always allowed them to see those maps. We have always had field hearings where they can have input. Whether we consider their input or not, we gave them those opportunities, and I have never seen it done this way.
You can draw districts based on political performance, political partisanship. These districts were drawn primarily using political performance.
That last guy was a Republican, Rep. Todd Hunter, defending it a little bit. They're just calling it. They have to call it like they see it, and they have to repeat that this isn't some state level petty fight between state reps. This is part of the Trump agenda. He's trying to steal reps. He's trying to steal House seats. Period. End of story. He's cheating. The DOJ letter suggesting unconstitutionality in the districting in an off year when they never do this, right before the 30-day special session. I feel like we've laid out pretty clearly how they are cheating. It's pretty obvious. Here's Greg Kasar. I mentioned him earlier.
It's the same old story over and over, corrupt politicians trying to change the rules to drown out the voices of working class people and communities of color. Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. Amen. Ken Paxton, the most corrupt politician in Texas history. Amen. Do not be in on their scheme. Thank you very much.
That was Jasmine Crockett back behind him. Preach, Brother Kasar. Amen. We're going to let Alex Padilla get the final word here. Senator Alex Padilla, he's going to go ahead and tell you why this is happening. Once again, he's good at what he does. He understands what's happening. He's got a platform, and he's using it for the right reasons. So I'm going to let you hear from Padilla on this before we close out the show.
congressional maps obviously in focus. They are usually redrawn every decade, but in Texas, as you referenced, Republicans there rolled out a new map that could actually add up to 5 GOP seats. You now have Governor Gavin Newsom promising that California would respond with a new map that would boost Democratic seats in that state. Let me ask you, Senator, do you believe it's hypocritical for Democrats to deploy the same strategy that they're criticizing by Republicans in Texas?
Well, first of all, let's understand why Donald Trump is asking for 5 more Republican seats out of Texas. It's because his policies, especially his economic policies, have been so bad, right? The prior guest referenced the big, beautiful bill. Wait till people start losing their health care and their health care costs go up, right? That if Republicans were confident on their policy agenda, they'd be eager to defend it with the people and to defend it at the ballot box next November, but they know they're in trouble.
First of all, clearly Godzilla is attacking the city in the background there, because every single siren in wherever that is going off. Godzilla is stomping through. Maybe King Kong climbed a building. I don't know, but something serious was going on in the background there.
The producers are back. Keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah. Godzilla, he just walked past this building. Keep going. He's not going to... But what Padilla said at the end is the flat truth of this. If Trump was good for America and good for Americans and their wallets and their well-being, job security, their 401ks, if he was good for your Medicare, your Medicaid, then he wouldn't have to do this. This is the clearest sign you need that he knows damn well that he does not have the American people in mind. His donors, mega corporations, oil barons, oligarchs, that's who he's catering to. That's who this administration's all about. Because if it wasn't the truth, he wouldn't have to steal districts.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.